Hello. As I promised, we have a rat's nest. Just gonna talk through this stuff and then we're gonna plug it up. So we've got the guts of a Tartarus V2, all soldered up with a USB hub and a RP2040 microcontroller and I gotta be careful here, and a Joycon Hall effect stick. Oh goodness. So let's talk the stock board first. So the stock V2 board connects to this thumb button, connects to the D-pad, which drives some LEDs over here, as well as this button here. And it's connected to USB right here, right there. And that factory USB cable is right here. I've cut it. This connector that I just showed you was originally here, so I cut that. Now those are going to the hub, but on different ports. So let's talk the hub. We've got this USB hub that I've showed you previously. This factory connector for the board, it's right here, goes to one of the ports on the hub, the in ports, I guess, of the hub, or the client ports. I don't know, whatever you want to call that. The other client port is going to the microcontroller that is operating the Hall effect stick, which is connected over here with this little ribbon cable connector, this breakout. This also has a LED. I put this into the side of the Tartarus enclosure because it's got a boot up light sequence that tells you I'm calibrating, I've calibrated, do you want to go into keyboard mode? It's got a whole thing, and you use the LED to do that. I do that because all this goes inside the Tartarus. And then finally, you've got the host port connected to the one main USB cable right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this all on screen, and I'm going to plug it up, and we're going to see it light up like a Christmas tree. And then after that, I'll do this next part off camera, but I'll mount all this inside of the Tartarus body, and then I'll cut to that so you can see what that looks like. But this, just at this point, before you screw or glue anything down, you want this part to work. You want to be able to plug this in, everything light up on your PC, see the Tartarus, these buttons work, the stick work, everything work. And then once you have that, you can start shoving it all into the Tartarus body and begin reassembly. So I don't want to short anything, so I think this can just go here, here. This LED is visible. This is a mess, man. I just don't want anything shorted. That's on top of plastic or rubber, that's fine. The main, see if I can get this to where those LEDs are visible. Yeah. Okay, come on. That's annoying. I'll just hold it right there. All right, I think that's everything. You should be able to see. This is a mess. All right, please don't short anything. Here we go. Plugging in. 3, 2, 1. Plugged. Wow, look at that. And it booted. Good, it's booted. The Tartarus is obviously powered on. the hub has power. LEDs over here are working. LED down here is working. LED on the microcontroller. I think we're good, man. So off camera, like I said, I will shove all this into the Tartarus body, get everything secured, and then I'll show you that. Show you that next. Okay, so I've done the next part off camera, and I'm gonna just talk through the routing here. I did put a hole with a small drill bit in the side for this LED to go through. It's a nice flush fit. That's glued down with hot glue. There's a blob of hot glue right there. There's a little bit more right there for stress relief, strain relief, sorry. And then I decided to put the microcontroller for the stick right here, wires facing up again, so I could put drops of hot glue for strain relief. I don't want any of this coming loose and touching the bottom of the Tartarus PCB. It's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt to get to if something does come loose. So just the more you can tack down, the better. Tack that down so it doesn't move. And then this USB hub right here, this is tacked down as well. I kind of arranged it such that there was the least amount of tangle. So the microcontroller wire does this loop-de-loop. This wire right here, this bundle for the, this wire bundle for the main Tartarus keypad PCB comes out right here. And then the main USB cable takes the same route, but then terminates right here. So we have just one USB cable coming out. From the outside, this is going to look identical except for this USB, this LED here, and of course the side module alterations. Which, I mean, that's right here and looks like this. So some notes. I think I said this in the frame prep when I was cutting the plastic ribbing away, that you needed to make sure this channel was cut. There's a big piece of plastic right here. That's got to be cut out, or at least cut down. You want these wires to be able to come through without touching anything else, like being able to rub on anything or being pinched. So that's got to be cut out. When you put the Tartarus PCB down, you should probably, I'm trying to remember the sequence of events. You should probably, if you can, because this area here is a little tricky because it's tight. You should plug this into the PCB first. It goes right there, and then seat it down and screw it down. That's because if you seat the main PCB first, screw it down, and then try to plug this in, it's real tight, and it's going to be it's difficult to do. So do that first, and don't forget. It's easy to forget this little thumb breakout. Don't forget that. And as long as you've got everything nice and neat, tucked down, you can see it doesn't really, like, it's not coming up. It's not very tall. Like, all this stuff is not coming up off the floor of this frame much at all, and that's because we're using thin wiring. We're using small PCBs, a small USB hub, and yeah. So that's it for this video. The next one will be final. It will be everything put back together and some testing to demonstrate that it does indeed work. And that will be this entire mod. This entire Tartarus V2. It also works for the Tartarus Pro analog mod. It does not work for the Tartarus V1 because the V1 has the same side module as the Orb Weaver, though that will be similar to this, but there's some differences because it is like the Orb Weaver, and the Orb Weaver is a little bit different. The Tartarus V1 does have the advantage of having a similar frame cavity, so you can put all this junk in here. The Orb Weaver does not. It is, the Orb Weaver in comparison is really quite like short and shallow. There's not a lot of space inside vertically, so you can't put all this inside of an Orb Weaver. It's unfortunate. You have to. The best I've done for an orb is have a small enclosure kind of come off the side to this main cable. That small little enclosure like this sits here on the desk, that all this goes inside. But that's another mod for another time. And there's not a lot of Orb Weavers anymore. That's an older device. Most people who buy Razers buy these Tartarus V2s or Pros if they want the analog keys. What else is there? Oh, the one thing about this little microcontroller that I don't like is the fact that there are no solder pads for the USB connector, which is why we had to use this USB-C adapter or breakout board. That's less of a problem, but the bigger problem is that there's no soldering pads for the the boot button. So on these, I have another one. On these little microcontrollers, this is the same one. There are these two buttons, and this is the one we care about, this boot button. If you hold this button down while you plug a USB cable in it and it powers on, it goes into, it's got a better name than this, but it lets you flash new firmware. And so if there's ever a firmware update, the person who has this device is going to have to open this up and push that button and plug this up to flash the new firmware. I've not found a way around that yet. So that's a little unfortunate, but the firmware updates for this little stick, I haven't done one in years because it's very simple. It's just 2-axis and a button and auto calibration. So there's not much here to mess with, right? The tough pad's different because it has a lot going on, a lot more going on, and that uses a full-size Raspberry Pi Pico, which does have those soldering pads. So anyways, that's just one thing about this board that I'm not thrilled with. But otherwise, this is all fine. Something you need to be aware of. And that's it. If you followed this and you're at this point, congratulations. You are very close to having a finished mod. At this point, it's just putting everything back together. We're done soldering. We're done gluing. It's just all the screws. Then there's a lot that came out of the factory screw mounts and the stickers and the wrist pad and the different frame pieces. And it's reassembly. But if you've taken this apart already, you should know how to do that. It's not that big of a deal. It's just a little tedious. Anyways, I'll stop rambling. That's it. Hope this makes sense. I hope you get some use out of it. If not, feel free to spam me with your questions because I need feedback. Thanks. Later. Have fun.